thinking about why the appeal to me was so big was there's always especially in architecture as well as industrial design and other fields, there's infatuation with materials. The more people consume it, everything starts becoming a gimmick. So it's like you touch and something changes, and well, the technology is there, so it's like, well, could we give it a purpose? I was really fascinated with all the material innovations that are taking place, but not just within the realm of, how many times can you leave your fingerprint on something or make it change color. Where it kind of made sense to me is, wow, like that's a tool to show the effects of the environment on the building. Putting sort of all my abilities together, I wanted to just take a personal stab at it and see sort of how far I could push it.
Can you go back a song? Yeah, that one.
What I have learned and sort of speculated on is materials research in architecture is actually heading sort of in two directions. One is showing materials somewhat like this magic material that does everything. I know it does sound sci-fi. This water bottle, right? They're using the same material, but it has all the embedded technologies. It's programmable so that you can have opaque and clear surfaces. When you want it, you can open a window, or you can program a window rather. So it has something called aerogel, which is made out of 99% air, and it gives the same insulation coefficient as a brick wall. So suddenly we're looking at the super material that does everything that you would expect from a building material. The second approach that I have researched emphasizes materials, but it has integrated technologies to make them function better. Brick, concrete, glass, fabric, all the materials that we know, but would have embedded technologies that would allow them to, say, reflect light, adjust to temperature changes, become water permeable or water absorbent. Within that light, I was looking into materials that can harvest, transfer, and release energy when needed. That would change our perceptions of the buildings, because suddenly we have a building that is capable of changing whenever the environment around it changes. Suddenly you see buildings harvesting or responding to the weather elements rather than just guarding us against them, like as currently they do. What the lotus leaf has is basically all these peaks and pits, and it doesn't allow the water to adhere to itself, so that the water basically stays spherical, and as it is running off the lotus leaf, it just takes away all the dirt with it. It comes about as a second skin to the building, so I'm not claiming that we will revolutionize the way we build. However, with the added technologies, buildings can do what they do much better.
I was just wondering, in terms of, I don't even know if you've read Kyoto, or I heard it's just a gigantic thing, but is there anything about architectural materials or the way things are built that's part of Kyoto? Or is it even just in basic the way building emissions are and stuff, like in terms of heating and
up to 40 to 50% of greenhouse emissions actually do come from buildings. So it has a huge implication. The initial set of exercises, poetry appearing or the wind having an effect on the building facade and things like that, yes, it is a visual articulation of what I'm thinking about, but in a way, if you don't make these effects visible to people, then their reaction to it doesn't change. Right? So my first set of prototypes basically concentrate on making these weather elements visible on the building facade, just so that people sort of understand that correlation between architecture and the environment that it is in. Rain changing the building facade, or the light, so the building facade responding to the light conditions that it is in is one example. And it doesn't have to be permanent either. Things could be there only when needed. A building doesn't need to be lit 24/7 year after year, but it could be lit, or it could respond to light when we need to see it, or when its presence.
Yeah, like when
needs
someone
to,
comes
yeah.
close to it or see
That's
information. It seems like also that like an artistic element is important to you. Like, do you feel it's not just purely practical?
My main purpose in sort of getting into the prototypes was to, first of all, reveal, make visible the effects of the weather. The thinking that went beyond it is every element that touches a building has energy, and energy is transferred. When you look at this example of the sound, well, it's not visible to the eye, but in actual case, the fabric, it moves with the sound. Going from these micro-level investigations to macro-level and applying these principles to the building facades. The first step is to make it visible, but the second step that I want to pursue, which is sort of like a natural evolution to the project, is harvesting the energy. So suddenly we're collecting the rain or doing something with the wind, or the wind is capable of generating power or adding to the building facade, or light as part of the design of the building, not just as an added element that we kind of rely on as an energy source, but the buildings should be able to harvest the energy that it is in during the day and emit it at night when it's necessary. Materials are not static, it's not passive, but with basically future and current technologies, they're conceptualized and applied as dynamic materials that respond to the weather elements. So in return, that changes architecture, and that's my sort of personal view of how architecture could change in the future.